There's a difference between being an older man who turns heads and one who quietly makes women cringe. You've seen both. One is the silver-haired guy at the bar with calm confidence, effortlessly drawing younger women in. The other, he's trying too hard, unaware that he's embarrassing himself. This isn't about looks. It never is. It's about self-awareness, energy, and presence. Nothing turns a younger woman off quicker than an older man acting the way he thinks she wants him to act, instead of simply being who he is. So if you've ever asked yourself why younger women seem into you at first, but then quickly back away, odds are you're making one of these 7 mistakes. The worst part, you probably don't even realize it. Let's break them down. Habit 1. Trying to act young instead of owning your age. A few things repel younger women faster than an older guy. Desperately clinging to youth. You know the type, wearing sneakers made for high schoolers, using outdated slang, talking about TikTok trends like he's keeping up, when really, he's just repeating what he read on some list about how to connect with Gen Z. You're not 25 anymore, and that's not just fine, it's a strength. Younger women don't want an older man because they're seeking a 25-year-old in disguise. They're drawn to what younger men lack: stability, life experience, depth, the confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are. But when you imitate youth, you lose the very edge that makes you attractive to begin with. The cringe of trying to hard. Picture this: you walk into a bar and see a man in his 40s. Backward cap, oversized hoodie, sneakers that probably cost more than his rent, and he's saying stuff like, "No cap, FRFR. Does it come off as cool? No. It just feels off. There's a reason Sean Connery was still turning heads in his 60s. He didn't pretend to be 25. He embraced his age and made it look damn good. A man who owns his age commands respect. A man who fights it looks desperate. How to do it right? Want to be magnetic as an older man? Stop chasing youth. Start embodying wisdom. Skip the trends and master timeless style. Forget the slang and learn to articulate. Well-chosen words land harder than any viral catchphrase. And instead of forcing yourself into young spaces, build your own space that draws others in, especially younger women, because what they really want isn't a man still trying to figure himself out. They want one who knows exactly who he is. Habit 2. Flexing your money in a way that screams Be honest, money is attractive. It signals success, capability, stability. But the second you start flaunting it, you turn it into a repellent. Younger women don't mind that older men have money. What they hate is when older men act like money is all they bring to the table. There's a big difference between a man who simply has wealth and a man who tries to use wealth to mask insecurity. And trust me, women can spot the difference instantly. How this looks in action: a man in his late 40s takes a younger woman on a date. Within 10 minutes, he's name-dropping restaurants, talking about his Porsche, mentioning how much his watch cost. She smiles, nods politely, but inside, she's turned off. Not because of the money, but because the vibe is desperate. He's screaming, "Please be impressed." A confident man doesn't need to prove his success. His lifestyle, presence, and composure speak for him. The man obsessed with showing he's rich. Ironically, he's the one revealing how little he actually has. Habit 3. Complaining about modern women like it's your personality. Up attraction faster than an older guy who sounds bitter about the dating world. You've seen it. The man who constantly talks about how women today are entitled, how things were better back in the day, how social media ruined everything. Sure, some of it may even be true, but the minute you start ranting, you sound less like a wise man, and more like the guy at the bar yelling about how music peaked in the 80s. Why it's so off-putting when you complain about women. What you're really communicating is this: you feel powerless. You've got unresolved resentment. You don't adapt, you just blame, and there's nothing less attractive than a man who blames the world instead of evolving with it. Younger women don't dislike older men. They dislike older men who act like victims. Habit 4. Being overly possessive and controlling. There's a saying, the tighter you grip something, the faster it slips away. Nowhere is that more true than in relationships. Younger women aren't turned off by older men, but they are turned off by older men who treat them like property. A confident man makes her feel chosen. A possessive man makes her feel trapped. And most men don't even realize when they're doing it at first. It feels like care. Text me when you get there. Who are you going with? You're wearing that. But then it turns into control. Why didn't you answer right away? I don't like your friends. I don't trust those guys around you. And just like that, attraction becomes suffocation. Why older men fall into this trap? It's not that men are naturally controlling. It's that life teaches some of them to become this way. By his 40s or 50s, a man may have been blindsided by a painful breakup, left for someone better, or watching younger guys become the competition. So instead of trusting that he is enough, he tries to control her world, believing it'll keep her from leaving. But here's what he doesn't get. Control doesn't keep a woman close, it pushes her away. Habit 5. Talking down to her like she's a child. One of the most common and damaging mistakes older men make is slipping into condescension. They don't even realize it. They just assume that because they've got more life experience, they're always right and entitled to correct her, explain things, or show her how the world really works. Nothing kills attraction faster. How it plays out. She's excitedly sharing something, a new book, a fun fact, a passion project, and how does he respond? Oh, that's cute. You just figured that out. Yeah, I've known that for years. Trust me, you don't really get it yet. It's subtle, but devastating. Instead of connecting with her, he's making her feel small. The psychology behind it: some older men believe their value comes from being the wise teacher. There's nothing wrong with sharing knowledge, but how you share it is everything. You can either be the man who inspires her curiosity, or be the man who makes her feel dumb. One draws her closer, the other sends her packing. Habit 6. Dressing like you've given up on life. Let's be blunt. Attraction is visual. You can be smart, successful, and charming. But if you look like you rolled out of bed, you've already started behind. And too many older men fall into this trap. At some point, they stop caring. They tell themselves, I'm too old to dress well. I don't need to impress anyone. If she likes me, she'll like me for me. But here's the harsh truth. Attraction requires effort. You don't need to dress like a 25-year-old influencer. You don't need to follow trends. But if you look like you've stopped trying, she will too. Why? It happens sometimes. It's comfort. Maybe he was married for years. Maybe he's successful and thinks status is enough. Maybe he just got lazy. But comfort kills attraction. When a woman sees a man who doesn't take care of himself, she doesn't think he's deep and unmaterialistic. She thinks, if he puts this little effort into himself, how much effort will he put into me? The difference between old and distinguished. Here's what most men don't realize. Women love older men, but only the ones who look like they still give a damn. Look at George Clooney, Idris Elba, Pierce Brosnan. They're not pretending to be young, they just respect themselves and their style shows it. That's what makes the difference. Habit 7. Acting like you know everything. Few things are more off-putting than a man who thinks he's the smartest one in the room. Older men do this without realizing. They've seen more, done more, lived more, so they think that makes them the authority on everything. But women don't want a professor, they want a partner. The fine line between confidence and condescension. Let's say she's talking about something she's excited about, a book, a business idea, a hobby. The right kind of older man. He listens, engages, encourages her excitement. But the man who ruins it says, actually, that's not how it works. You're too young to get it. Let me explain the real way. To him, he's just being helpful. To her, he's talking down. Why this backfires: when a man constantly corrects her, it sends one message loud and clear. I don't respect your mind, and that kills attraction, fast. There's nothing wrong with being an older man dating a younger woman. In fact, when done right, it can be one of the most rewarding dynamics out there. But if you're making these mistakes, acting insecure, controlling, condescending, or like you've stopped trying, you're setting yourself up to fail. You don't need to be young to be desirable. You just need to be a man who knows his worth. gives her space instead of smothering her, listens instead of preaching, and sharpens himself instead of letting himself go. Do that. And it won't matter if you're 40, 50, or 60. She be drawn to you not because of your age, but because of your presence.